Okay, this is my first attempt to document and record the restoration of this truck. Just as a background, this is a 1953 Ford F100 pickup. I have owned this truck since I was 13 years old. I paid $250 for it, with my dad helping me drag it back home. And we took 5 years to do a frame-on restoration. By the time I finished the restoration on this truck, I say I, but we, my dad, my mom, and my sisters, finished the restoration on this truck. I was a senior in high school at the end of my graduating year. I went off to college, and when I went off to college, the truck sat fully restored. However, as it sat, everything started dry rotting. It sat under a carport, and there was some rust that developed on it. So what happened after that was when I graduated, got a degree, got married, bought my first house, I drug this thing home about 15 years later. And I was going to fix a couple of little things on it and started tearing it all the way down to pretty much what you see today from the frame off. It started out with just getting the motor freeze plugs that jumped out. So I wanted to do the motor work, pull the front end off to work on the motor. Saw some rust on the front end pieces and decided to go ahead on and fix those while I was at it. Next thing I know, found a few other little places that I need to work on. So I decided to go ahead on and do a full-blown frame-off restoration. So as I did that, I moved from where I was, from my hometown, to where I am now. And my cousin was restoring a 1935 Chevrolet Master Deluxe car. So I started picking up some skills with him, and that car was nearly finished on the restoration, sitting on a C10 chassis. And we actually drove that thing to Knoxville, Tennessee. And we started working on this truck. And this truck, that revision started in 2007. So I go back to say now, this is the way it sits and where it started. On the second revision, it was torn all the way down to the frame. We painted pieces, and if you see this beautiful yellow, it's a House of Color Spanish gold. But there are some problems with it that we didn't know when we first started playing around with it, was that painting candy paint, everything has to be together. So as we started painting pieces and assembling it, we found every single piece was a different color. Fast forward, without the boring part of it, I lost my dad, who he and I were the original restorers of this truck. And my sister later passed, and my wife told me that I should go back to what the truck was originally when my family restored this truck, which was black. So I started buying parts, more and more parts and everything, and starting to tear the truck back down again. And so again, since 2007, this is where the truck is sat. My older sister says excuses only satisfy those that make them. She's a retired command sergeant major from the United States Army for 36 years. Great woman, love her to death, but she hit me with the real truth. So I've had excuses. It's either too cold, too hot, something's there to stop the progress on me getting this truck back together. So the reason for this video is to start holding myself accountable and moving forward with it. I've been working with the federal government for almost 20 years now, and some of my coworkers, when we talk about it, always ask about the progress of this truck. And now it's come to be an embarrassment to say that I haven't moved any farther than I did when I assembled it this way in 2007. So right now, the plan is to strip the Spanish gold off. We're going to strip it back down, and we're going to get the body re-prepped again and change some of the things that we were originally going to do. We had shaved door handles on it, shaved mirrors. I'm going to keep the shaved door handles, but I'm going back with the original mirrors that were on it. We'll just cut those welded up places that we had, that we did that. I'm going to keep the shaved handles. And it's got all modern drivetrain. I say modern, but this was modern back when I did start on it with the Chrysler Mopar front end, torsion bar suspension, disc brakes on it, and I've got rear wheel disc brakes on it out of a Mercury Mountaineer, and I have can't remember the name of the company. The rear suspension with it has a full leaf setup, but it's a lowered setup. I've got brand new sheet metal for it, brand new bed, fenders, brand new rear fenders. Everything is there. I rebuilt this motor, which is a small block Ford. Had this motor sent to a performance shop and rebuilt about 3 years ago, and there it sits. Had the transmission done at the same time, and there it sits. And if you can see this, that is the cab dolly that I recently built. So, speaking of recently built, I was doing this initially out of my home garage, and my wife kind of got fed up with the smells and the odors and everything coming into the house. So I took a pause right during the pandemic, right when the pandemic hit, and decided to build this shop. And this is a 22 by 24 shop, which I've already filled it up to complete this restoration with. And I'm glad I did. It's there's no excuse. We talked about it. That's AC and heat right there. It's all insulated, so I can work 24/7. I don't have an excuse about missing a game. Got a TV, got a radio to keep me going. So now, and using that thing from Nike, which I don't own the rights to, but I'm just gonna do it, and that's time to do it. So I'll be checking in pretty frequently on the progress that I'm going on right now. I got to figure out exactly where I want to start. I want to pull it back off the frame, the cab off the frame, and really clean up the frame again and get it like it needs to be before I sit it back on, and then do my body work. So I'm going to start with my whiteboard that I have up here. And on my whiteboard, for you to read the Bible, Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision. And that's biblically speaking, but that's also in life as well, to write the vision and make it plain. Because if you wander like I did here these past 10 or 12 years, you don't know where you're going because you don't have a roadmap. So that's the reason. And I've watched all of the the hot rod shows, and everybody's got something written on a piece of cardboard on where they're going and what the end result is. So that's what I decided to do, the same thing on my whiteboard. Would do that and cross it out as I go along, and then move to the next. So right now the plan is to actually go with the chassis, with the frame, clean the frame up, get it all painted, and then sit the cab back on it and do that. My distractions over the years have been my two Mustangs, actually three Mustangs. There's a 66 in the other garage. But this has been my first love. This was before my wife and before anything. And so now she says it's got to be done. And so that's what we're going to do. So we'll be checking back with you, showing you progress.